Hello and welcome back to the Wheel Talk podcast. My name is Abby Mickey. I'm here with two of the best to talk about women's professional road cycling, Gracie Elvin.
Hello, hello. Always good to be here.
And Loren Rowney.
G'day everyone. Good to be back.
We're going to talk about the World Championships time trial, a couple key transfers over the week, and do a little preview to the road race on Saturday. I also have a really special clip for everybody. I am preparing our off-season interviews. Usually in the off-season, we'll do a bunch of interviews instead of trying to stumble our way through cyclocross coverage. And my first one has been recorded with none other than Elise Chabbey, who we will talk about, well, really, really soon. And I talked to her about the road race, so I'll include that clip. I'm quite excited about it. Let's dive into it. We had the time trial, World Championship time trial on Sunday. And while Loren was right, she called it last week. Grace Brown won over Demi Vollering and Chloe Dygert. It was quite a hilly course in the end. I think I under anticipated exactly how hilly that first section of the course was, and just how much time could be lost on that part. But man, Grace rode such an incredible race, and we had some other really notable results that we'll talk about. But yeah, we got to talk about Grace Brown.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Made history in multiple ways. I mean, like Australian, and then just in general, she's the first ever woman to do the double in the same year. I mean, not even Judith Arndt did that. So it's pretty incredible.
She was also the first male or female to do it until like an hour and a half later when Remco did it.
I mean, that's insane in itself, in the same year that both the man and woman were able to do the same thing. I mean, Remco as well was the favorite. Grace was always in my head the favorite. They are time trial specialists, but like they said in the interviews when people were interviewing both of them, to do that with that kind of pressure is just incredible. To peak for the Olympics and then only how many weeks later, 2 months, come out and do it again, not even 2 months, 6 weeks or so, is phenomenal.
It's so difficult. Like there's so many things that have to fall into place. You have to stay healthy. You've got to stay on top of your physical game, which is, it's really difficult to peak for anything, let alone a few big things in the year. And she set her sights on the classics as well as the two major time trials. So just physically, that's really difficult. And then mentally, it's probably even more difficult, arguably. So I'm just really impressed that she was able to handle like the roller coaster of emotions over the season, because that could really wear you out as well. But it's just been clear that she's found a lot of ways to keep herself happy this season, including having her parents and her husband over in Europe a lot and doing fun stuff, and just kind of making sure she's hanging out with the people that give her good energy, and making the most of that last season in Europe as well, and making it a fun time rather than a really serious monk-like existence. You know, that works for some people, but I don't think it works for that many people. And it's really cool that she was able to know what was going to work for her, and to share it with the people that she really cares about. And I think that was her secret sauce this year. Of course, she had it really dialed, especially for the Olympics. She talked about that a bit in her interview, like she did everything perfectly. But coming into Worlds, the preparation was a lot different. But having the happiness what's up, I guess you could say, had, really helped her to continue all the way through to this part of the season. Because Worlds without Olympics is hard to get to after a big season. For a lot of riders, I always really struggled with World Championships. I just felt so flat by this time of the year, and I always couldn't quite figure out how to feel good again, get my classics kind of shape back again for Worlds. So it's really cool when you see people do figure it out. And she managed to do that in the best year possible. So it's like, yeah, I can't understate how hard it was to do what she did this year.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, I talked to her briefly after the Tour de France Femme and asked her about kind of her mindset going into the Olympics and at the Tour, and now then pivoting towards going back into a major time trial, which is such a solo event, such a selfish event in a lot of ways. And she was really funny. She said that the tour was kind of a break for her, actually, mentally, because she did everything right going into the Olympic time trial. She lived that monk life and had everything ready for the Olympics, was totally focused, and then to go into the tour afterwards, which she said was potentially not like the best prep post Olympics if she wanted to perform again at Worlds, but that it was to go into the race and ride as a supporting role for Avita Music instead of focusing on herself for another 6 weeks going from the Olympics into the World Championships was the best thing that she could have done mentally, because it was a break. It was a week-long break where she was still riding her bike. She was still out there, but she got to focus on someone else for a change and focus on little things in a road race that you don't have to think about. You don't get to think about when you're training for a time trial. And then coming out of the Tour de France Femme and going back into the time trial mindset, it was a very different preparation than for the Olympics. And I think, like she said after the race, having that Olympic title gave her a lot of confidence and in a way lifted, I think, some pressure off of her. Like she knew she could do it. And having her parents there and racing Romandy was a bit of a fun one for her. And yeah, everything just worked out incredibly well. And she rode such an amazing race. I mean, the time splits, you knew she was on a good day when she came through the first time split and she had the fastest time. But then when Vollering took, I think it was 8 seconds on her by the second time split, it was like, oh man. But going into the final 12K, it was her bread and butter, flat, fast, aero, just exactly what she knows how to do. And she took 25 seconds out of Vollering on that flat bit in 25 seconds in 12 kilometers. It was pretty impressive. So just such an amazing day. And I'm so curious what her deciding to retire so early in the year and kind of announcing it so early in the year when, she put it out there. It was not something she was going to backtrack on mid-season, how that came into play with her mental game, how being hey, this is it. This is the last chance. This is the only chance I'm going to get, how that affected her mentally going into the Olympics and the World Championships.
Yeah, I guess with Grace, if she hadn't retired this year, the question would have been, would she have gone all the way to LA? And I don't think she would have, because she has said over the years how hard it is to have your partner living on a different continent, as well as your family and friends. And like we've said before, she came into the sport a bit later. And I think when people enter this sport, and you've seen so many athletes at a bit of a later age, they set really big, ambitious goals, because they perhaps foresee that their career is going to be a bit shorter than, say, someone who's just come fresh out of under 19s. Within your first 5 years of being in the peloton, you're not going to set an ambitious goal like winning the world championships, for example. And I think with Grace, she always knew when she came into the sport that she had a hell of a lot of potential, and she had a good team around her. So this year to decide to actually walk away, I don't know her that well, so you could probably speak to this, Gracie, but I think that would have worked in her favor just from the little bit that I know about her. It's it's all or nothing. And she would have had no regrets if she hadn't done this double like she did. But I think it would have been just that added incentive to make it happen this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's not an easy decision to make for anyone. But for her, I think she'd been pretty pleased with her career so far and kind of knew that she was okay to leave this as her last year no matter what happened, and that she made that decision quite early in the year. But like you said, Loren, I think that shift in the mentality of being look, I'm going to make every last, I guess, count, And maybe that was just that last little sprinkle of what she needed in that mental approach to some of these bigger races, and that self-talk in the races too. Like that was really, I liked that she said in her interview what she was telling herself in those last few kilometers, like I could be world champion. And probably also this is my last chance. So yeah, I think that's just great. You can't really fault her this year. She definitely, didn't feel that great though at the start of the season. So she didn't come in hot. She didn't come into this year with that super high confidence. She had to keep working on that confidence all year round. And now she's finishing off with the highest confidence. But no, like that's the fairy tale ending. Hardly anyone gets the dream ending of their career with just one title, and she got two of the biggest titles you can get in cycling and a classics monument win. Like that's just so cool. But I do get frustrated. I might have mentioned this on the pod a little while ago that literally every single journalist and interviewer goes, "Are you sure you're going to retire? You can't retire if you win the world championships. You have to keep going." And like she's very good. She's gracious and she kind of laughs it off. But I think it just like annoys her every time that someone like says that, and it happens a lot. And you can hear it in commentary a lot because I think when you've got a decent profile in the sport, you feel like you're almost letting people down a little bit when you retire. And it's not that at all. You're never letting people down when you retire, but when it's you and your decision, I think that there's a little bit of that feeling of going, oh, there's all these people that follow me in my career and all of these people that have supported me over the years, and am I letting them down if I retire early, or is this early, and should I keep going? And so when you're constantly being asked by journalists, you should definitely keep going, it just kind of adds to that feeling of like taking away from the good parts of her retirement and these really great results that she's had.
No, I have so much respect for her. Like Matt wrote a great piece on Monday about her kind of career and the season that she's had this year, and the mic drop moment that is her winning the world championships and then walking out. And I just think it's the coolest thing. Like I just think, yeah, like you said, Gracie, like so many riders end their career not the way that they want to. They are forced out from injury. They don't get a contract. Like there are so few riders that can achieve everything that they've ever dreamed of and then be like, cool, I'm good. Peace. And yeah, like she still would have retired had she not won the worlds. If she got second yesterday or on Sunday, she still would have been done at the end of the season. And even if she hadn't won the Olympic gold medal, she still could have deemed this season a success with Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But she made her decision and she's sticking to it. And all you have to do is just respect it because it's just such a baller move. And we can appreciate like how incredible her career, as short as it was, how incredible it was and how much she achieved as a rider. And I think that she's going to do great things next year. I know she has a plan. I'm not sure what that plan is, but I imagine that, she's going to take this positive energy that she's displayed all season long into the next step of her life.
Yeah, it got me thinking, what will Grace do in 2025? And will she be one of the people that were fortunate to keep in this cycling bubble? Because she'd be a wonderful person and advocate for cycling in general in Australia. And I would say from an advocacy point of view, I mean, people know of who Grace Brown is because if you win a gold medal in Australia, you get splashed all over the front pages. And now that she's done the double, I'm hoping that all the news outlets pick up on it. And, cycling is at the forefront of the media like it was when Cadel Evans won the Tour de France in 2011. That was a huge moment for cycling in Australia. And there's so much good that can come from this. And I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but like Sarah Carrigan is doing she was the 2004 gold medalist in the road race. So it'd been 20 years between golds for Aussie women in the Olympics road race / time trial. And she's doing amazing advocacy work and getting more people on bikes. And as someone who now lives in Europe and has been here for a long time, it's been really cool to watch the movement that is happening back home. Because Australia's been a bit behind in terms of traditional cycling advocacy and getting more people out on bikes recreationally and for commuter purposes. So I wonder if we can take a bit of this momentum with the eyes on such a champion on two wheels and use it for good.
No doubt we'll see her doing some more stuff in cycling. She's definitely got a good profile now for it. But just going back to current, she was just a great teammate to many, but also a really great mentor, even just at Worlds for Brodie Chapman. Brodie said a few nice words about Grace and how that she just soaked up all of that experience of being able to be there with Grace and learn so much for her future career going into time trialing. And Australia's going to, need more time trialists now that Grace is retiring. But actually, for those that don't know Grace very well, she's not your classic time trialist. She's actually she's not, I don't want to make this sound bad, but like a lot of time trialists can be a bit weird and they can be a bit strange off the bike and a bit annoying to race with on the bike, but she's not that at all. She's very chill, great human being, smart, funny, but also, really reliable teammate too. So I really liked that, those kind of stories were coming out as well, that she was also being a generous teammate in that moment, because time trialing, like you said, Abby, is really selfish, but she's not a selfish person, and she wouldn't have been a gatekeeper in her knowledge and her prep with someone like Brodie and the younger rider Izzy Khan. So I think that if anyone wants to take her into mentoring, whether it be in cycling or out, she'd be also great for that too.
When I was talking to her after the tour, she mentioned that she would love to stay in cycling in some capacity. Like, we were talking about how much growth she's seen in the peloton and in the sport in her time since she joined, and how she would love to be a part of it going forward. But obviously we know she wants to be in Australia. So yeah, I hope that those two things can come together for her, because we know that, the road scene in Australia is not what it once was. So hopefully she can step into some role there if she wants to. But yeah, what a way to go out. Holy crap. Gold medal and a world championship. And I honestly couldn't care less that we're not going to see the world championship time trial jersey in the racing next year. We have 4 time trials a year. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less that we're not going to see it. The story in and of itself is just so cool, so good, and just the whole thing is so heartwarming. Her entire career really leading up to this point, and everything that's brought her this victory, and also the Olympic gold medal. I don't care. I don't care that we're not going to have that jersey in the peloton.
I'm sure her team's still going to get one made for her, and it will be like a beautiful parting gift, probably with a rainbow bike. So she's going to have a rainbow bike and a gold bike to take home to Australia and mount in the pool room.
Yeah, but they already have, so they got the gold bike, and then they made her the Australian bike that she rode in the Olympics, that she won the Olympics on. And when we saw the gold bike, when we got a sneak peek of it, we were told that she gets to pick which one she wants to keep, the gold bike or the one she won the Olympics on. But now if they make her a rainbow one, they're going to have to cave. They're just going to have to give her,
give her all three. Come on.
She would have got, I'm sure though, that she would have got some pretty good bonuses with these big results. So she should just buy the frames.
Yeah.
Very true. No, I mean, it was an incredible race. And then we had other incredible performances before Grace rolled down the start ramp as well. Obviously, Demi Vollering, we didn't mention her in the preview pod. I think maybe she just slipped our minds, but I did say in the write-up that she was a heavy contender for a podium. And she did just that. She put those climbing legs to good use and rode a really, really strong race. She's a really strong time trialist as well. So it comes as no surprise that she was able to get second and kind of almost walked away with the whole thing. But Antonia Niedermeyer in fourth is kind of the standout result for me. She was racing in the U23 race. So she got fourth in the elites, but won the U23 jersey. and her performance was just incredible. She's had a bit of a quieter season this year compared to last year, but man, what a ride.
Yeah, that was definitely the most impressive for me. I mean, I expected Niedermeyer to be up there, but at the end, I was secretly hoping when Dygert was still coming in, like whether she could maybe potentially squeeze into that bronze medal position. Because I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, since we've had the under 23 category, has an under 23 stepped onto the podium? I don't think so in an elite competition. So that in itself is just phenomenal. And like you said, Abby, I think in the last podcast I was saying how Ricarda Barnfind and Antonia Niedermeyer had quieter with bunny ears years, still a year. Still really impressive in terms of the support they've provided for Canyon SRAM. But I mean, this is a fantastic way to sort of cap off the season.
Yeah, and she'll still race in the U23 road race coming next week, which is obviously combined with the elite road race for the final time. But it's just such a great result from her, and we knew she was a strong time trialist and a climber. So much like, it makes sense that Vollering had a really good day, it makes sense that Niedermeyer had a really good day. I was surprised Kopecky didn't do better. 5th is probably a disappointment from her coming off of Europeans, but it's the road race that she really will have her sights set on. And honestly, well, we'll talk about the road race, but she's going to be a hard one to beat in that one. And then some other maybe disappointments. Anna Henderson said after the race that she was pretty disappointed in 7th place. She said she just didn't have the legs on the day, which was frustrating because she had great legs in the entire week leading up to the race and then didn't have them when it counted. And Ellen Van Dijk finishing 8th is probably also maybe not as surprising given the season she's had this year. I mean, I think she will continue next year and we'll probably see a lot more from her next year, obviously, with her injury leading up to the Olympics this year. That would have really set her behind in a lot of ways going into the latter half of the season and the 2 big time trials that she would have targeted. But yeah, I'm sure that she's not super happy with 8th. Those were kind of the...
I think this just goes back to what Gracie was talking about earlier in the podcast, is again, just reiterating how impressive it is what Grace did, because if you look at the Olympics results, someone like Anna Henderson coming off that would have been probably a bit of a surprise for her and a huge result. And then she's had a great year, but then to come back down and then come up, even if she did have good legs, to bring it all together on that one day is just so hard. And I'd say it's the same for Kopecky. Kopecky's clearly in very good form, but like Gracie was saying, my experiences as well with the Worlds, I remember going into World Championships and feeling fantastic 2 weeks out, 10 days out, and then on the day just having rubbish legs. So I just find that incredible, and I don't want to talk anymore about Grace.
We can talk about Grace for the whole episode.
Till the cows come home. But yeah, just, to have the legs on the day and to have the mindset and everything go right, and sometimes actually, like she was saying, like you start off and you don't feel incredible, but you build into it, and then it's all just self-talk and self-belief, and having, that right person in your ear telling you exactly what you need to hear is so important. And with time trialing, just the more you do, the better you get at it. So yeah, a few rides that riders will be disappointed with how they've gone, but I think that can be a bit of fire in the belly as well for what we're going to see on the weekend.
Yeah, for Kopecky, I mean, after winning the European time trial, she, I think, was coming into this race with high hopes, and I thought for sure she was going to finish on the podium, honestly, with the way that she's climbing right now and a win at the European time trial. But she's really... it's the road race that she wants, and the course is great for her. And so in a week's time, she will not care that she got 5th in the time trial, probably.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Because I think Vollering made quite a statement with her performance in the time trial too. Her first TT medal.
Yeah, and she also seemed pretty pleased with it. I think we've gotten used to seeing sad Vollering on the podium when she can't get to that top step, but she seemed really, really pleased with her result. And I mean, it was as she should be. It was such a great result. And the only person that could beat her was the Olympic gold medalist and legend, Grace Brown. So really, really strong ride from Bullring.
It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure how much we can read into the time trial results as an indicator for next weekend. It could have just been some bad legs from some of the riders. It could have been the course. It's that time of the year. Some people just are going good and others are not. So I think Kopecky, it's a bit 50-50 now. Is she on the back? Is she on the down after such a big season? Or is it just a bad day and she'll be fine for the road race? I just don't think that we can really tell. We'll have to look back in hindsight after the road race.
If she is on the down, then at least we know she's human.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good point. That's what I was thinking as well. That was what I was kind of thinking with the time trial result, because I was a little bit worried that she was going to win in the way that you're just like, come on, really? This is getting ridiculous now. So yeah,
this is not your area of expertise.
Stick to general classifications, classics, and everything in between. Leave the time trial alone.
Just leave one thing for the rest of for a couple other people. I mean, leave one thing for the rest of the peloton when it comes to time trials really means nothing, because you have to be so particular to be good in big time trials like this. But yeah, she's so good at so many things. I did have a fear she was going to maybe get the double, which, would be fine. It would be really cool. It'd be super impressive. But also there's just so many other riders that are really, really good and you want them to do well. So being a fan of sports is hard. Anyway, all right, let's talk a bit about transfers and then we'll preview the road race. We got 3 major transfers over the week. The biggest one, I guess, in my opinion, is probably Elise Chabbey to FDJ Suez. She's been on Canyon SRAM for about 4 years now and is, really fresh in her career. She only really came into the peloton right before the COVID year and was riding for Bigla and then signed for Canyon SRAM when Bigla folded in 2020 and has found a home at Canyon SRAM. And I think she said when I talked to her that she's really excited about the move. She's also really sad because she loves Canyon SRAM and she loves the family there. She loves Kasia and riding with Kasia. They have a lot of fun together, but she wants to see if she can develop more as a rider. And so she made this decision to go to a new team, and she's kind of slotting into this superpower team that is being built over at FDJ Suez, and with some high hopes for herself. She wants to win races, which she didn't really get to do at Canyon SRAM. We went into it in detail in my interview with her, which will be out in a couple weeks. But she wants to win races. She wants to throw her arms up in the air, but she doesn't want to mess with GC. She's super happy to ride for Labus or Music or any other general classification signing that they may announce in the future. But she's not going to toy with that. She wants to win and she wants to be a team player like she's been at Canyon SRAM. And I think she's a great addition to FDJ, and I can't wait to see how that dynamic works, because I think she'll bring a lot of fun to the FDJ racing style.
That team must have a decent budget. They've been signing some pretty big names.
Exactly what I was thinking. Because we're not talking about small amounts of money these days, particularly for the quality of riders. It's really phenomenal, to be honest. So I'm curious if this potential new sponsor that's coming across is throwing in a bit more coin as well, not just for a potential new signing, but just in general. Or maybe the current sponsors have just upped it and seen the absolute value in women's cycling and women's sport in general.
I mean, we know,
We
know that FDJ kind of came in with more money after that result at La Course by the Tour de France back in the day when it was a brand new race. And now with the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift and any potential a French team has at winning that, then I wouldn't be surprised at all if any French sponsors they have are coming in with more to back the team. On the flip side, SD Worx Pro Time have announced 2 new signings. So they're up to 4 new signings. including Marta Locke, which we talked about last week, and Anna van der Breggen, which we've talked about every week. They've also signed Julia Kopecky, and they're bringing back Skylar Schneider, who was on the team back when it was Boels-Dolmans, but took a couple years off racing in Europe to race the crit scene in the US, and she's coming back to SD Works.
Yeah, I found that one an interesting re-signing. What do you think about that, Abby?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's when she left the team, she always had like an open-ended deal with them. Like I remember when she left, it was kind of for her own benefit mentally to go back to the US and race for Legion, the big crit team back in the States. And she always loved racing in Europe, but I think she signed for Boels-Dolmans when she was super young, and she didn't really get to progress much as a rider there, and going back to the States was kind of a resurrection of her career in a way. And now she's always, I think, had an eye on coming back to Europe, and with the team the way that it is, and she's 26 now, so she's a bit older, has a bit more experience. She's still raced in Europe a little bit in the last couple years with the national team, and been able to come over here and do some races and not get a ton of results, but she's won like, Pan Am championships last year and a couple races like that, and she's still such a phenomenal sprinter. On the crit side, she's like, her and her team have kind of swept up every single crit in the US for years at this point. And I think she feels ready to come back and feels ready to step it up again. And whether or not it will be successful, we'll have to see. But I think she's coming in with a lot more maturity than she maybe had when she joined the team in the first time in 2018.
Certainly, she sounds like she's got a bit more maturity and confidence to come back. And the team must, see some level. Like, of course, she's talented. We all know that she's talented. She's won a bunch, especially in the States. But the team, they could pick anyone from the peloton. I'm sure most people would be stoked if they got offered a SD Works contract. So they must really see some value in her abilities, but also how she might fit into the team. So I'm interested to see what kind of role they put her in now again, because she's super fast, but they've got Webers. And yeah, I'd be interested to see what else they're going to do with her, whether they keep developing her as another sprint option or they just wanted another soldier that can climb as well as sprint. So yeah, it's interesting.
I think she has the potential to be one of the best rulers, and that's what I always thought when she was a junior coming through, and then she signed for Boels. But of course, sometimes it just doesn't work out when you're a young rider and you go straight into a professional team, and you need those extra years perhaps developing on a lower tiered team. Not everyone makes the jump like Shirin Van Anrooy, but I think maybe they're looking at like. We've said how Kopecky's sprint has dampened a little bit over the years as she's formed and progressed into a different style of rider to what we were used to 7-8 years ago. I could see Skylar being like the Kopecky of that kind of era.
I could see Skylar slotting in Kopecky's place in the lead out to make sure that Kopecky saves more energy for the GC in races like tours and stuff like that, and kind of taking some of the load off of someone like Kopecky potentially earlier in the race. Just because Kopecky plays so many roles at the moment within the team, they're going to want her to really hone those in next year and be more focused in her efforts and her targets.
Can I just have a little humble brag? I beat Kopecky in a sprint 9 years ago.
I remember that, Gracie.
When she was a good sprinter.
Yeah. In Hoik, Heresberg and Hoik, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
I just needed to say that because I'm proud of myself.
No. Bragging, you gotta bring those bragging rights. While
Yeah,
we're on it, guys.
the older I get, the better I was.
I have one of those stories. There was this crappy tour in France in 2012 or 13. Oh God, I don't even know the name of it anymore. Something tour, not Tour de Limousine, but somewhere around that region. Anyway, Anna van der Breggen was there before she was with Bowles. She was on a smaller team that Christine Mayuris was on, and somehow someone tagged me in it this year, like the results from that year, and like I won that random stage by going in the early break and managing to get over the climbs. So then I was like in this pretty climby group. So I was like, I got this. It's climbers. But she rolled third in that sprint, and Majoris was second. So I was like, holy shit, Anna van der Breggen was. I didn't even remember that, but she wasn't like Anna, the Anna we know of today. So I think that's when she was a part-time bike racer.
Still claim it. That's good.
I will take that. I once beat her in a sprint, which doesn't say much.
Claim
The sprint
anything.
against climbers.
Yeah, SC Works' other signing, Julia Kopecky, is another interesting one. She's super young, 20, but has a lot of really notable results already. She's been racing for AG Insurance Soudal for this year and was on the U23 team last year. So she's only been in the World Tour for 1 year, but she's already managed to get some wins. She won the Czech National ITT, but also Tour de Féminine in the Czech Republic. She won 2 stages out of 4 in the general classification there just this year. And I think she's one that they're kind of signing with an eye on the future, and hopefully we'll be able to develop her a bit because she's clearly got some talent. And as it was pointed out on Twitter, RIP to the commentators. 2 Kopeckis on one team.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay, the road race. Let's talk about the road race. It's gonna be awesome. Honestly, like I've been looking at the course and writing my preview today, which will be out later this week. And I'm so excited. For one, it's circuits. And anyone who's ever listened to this podcast knows how Loren and I feel about circuits. We love a circuit. So it's 4 circuits of a hilly course. They start out and do kind of one loop around a lake and then kind of go in towards Zurich and do one climb-ish. It's like 1.7 kilometers long, 6% average to enter the circuit. And then they enter 30 kilometers into the race. They enter the circuit, and then they do 4 laps of this 27 kilometer long circuit. Basically, the way that the circuit is mapped out is the hardest part is in the beginning. They go through the finish line after coming into the circuit for the first time, and there's a really steep climb. It goes up to, I think, 20% almost. And it's still pretty short, a bit over a kilometer long, but it descends a really quick descent into a long gradual climb, 2.6 kilometers long, like 5-6% the whole time. But once they get to the top of that, it just pitches and rolls. And there's 2 more little kickers on the kind of plateau. And then they descend. They have 1 more little climb. And then it's like 2.5 kilometers to the finish. So then they start the circuit again. And what the course really offers is a lot of opportunities to get away and not a lot of opportunities to chase. So I think it's going to be a race of attrition. It's going to favor the strongest riders. And honestly, having a strong team isn't going to do too much for you in this situation, which is great for the Dutch because, of course, they have the strongest team and the least strong tactical knowledge. I don't know. They just always seem to get in their own way. So for them, it's great news. But yeah, there's definitely a few riders that stand out in terms of, being able to really challenge on this course. I want to hear really quick from Elise Chabbey because I asked her about the course and what she thinks. How are you feeling? You've got a week until Worlds, or I guess less than a week. It's coming up pretty quick. You feeling ready?
Yeah, I mean, for now I was just home, so I didn't really realize for now that I have Worlds like 2 hours from my place. But yeah, I'm gonna go there on Sunday and get in the atmosphere, I guess.
And you'll do the team mixed relay and the road race?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The mixed relay is an interesting one, like as it's so new, but Switzerland has been pretty strong in that event so far.
Yeah, I mean, we had the good team the last 2 years, so yeah, it went well for us. We won 2 times. But yeah, I think this year is gonna be more difficult because yeah, we miss Malen for sure. And I think she's one of the key riders for this event. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna try, but for sure it's gonna be harder to get a good result.
How are you feeling for the road race?
Yeah, I think the course is really interesting. I think it's really a cool one. I really like it. It's super hard, but I think the climbs can be good for me. It's quite short and punchy. And I think at the end it's going to be fatigue resistance, and I think it's one of my strengths. So yeah, I'm really excited to try there and I mean, I don't put myself any pressure because I had a really hard last few races, not super nice season. So yeah, I just want to enjoy there and yeah, just get my confidence back in the bunch, and hopefully I have a result with it. But if not, I just want to enjoy the roads at home.
So I think the standout rider for this race is probably Kopecky, given, you know, that it's not all that similar to Glasgow last year. The circuit is a lot longer, but in terms of the style of rider that it will favor, Kopecky ticks all the boxes. But I also think, you know, Vollering is riding quite well. She has won one days in the past. Where she's maybe lacking is race savvy, but a Dutch rider who is not lacking in race savvy at all and is climbing the best that she's climbed in years is Marianne Vos. And she's a rider who can beat Kopecky in a sprint. So if she comes to the line with Kopecky, she can beat her. She's one of the very few that can, who will be able to get over these climbs and still feature in the finale. But yeah, it's going to be such a good race because we also have like Elise Lamborghini, phenomenal climber. We've got Kashani Wadoma, very aggressive, won the tour, very high. The ego, no, that's not the confidence. The confidence is peaked for Kasha right now. So I think it's going to be a really good race.
I think for a rider like Cassia, going back to what you're saying about the course, if it is chaos like last year, it's basically you're just constantly rolling the dice with deciding what you can go with. And the more team members you have present in those finishing circuits, the more options you have open in terms of if you've got a strong team with potential riders who can take the win, like the Dutch. I would say the French have a really strong team too. So for someone like Kasia, that's where it gets harder to try and win the championship because she's going to have to pick and choose what she goes with. And like you've mentioned, and you will mention in your course preview, is that it's a very hard circuit to get organized like Glasgow. So if something goes, to be able to bring it back, it is in those like closing moments of the race virtually impossible. And like Kopecky was on, I would argue last year, one of the greatest days of her life, because remember, everything was thrown at her, like absolutely everything, and she was just on it the whole day. And to be able to do that is so hard. I find this course really challenging, kind of like last year. I mean, Kopecky was the favorite, but to actually nail it on the day is something else.
I was told that if a rider can get away on the steep part that's right after the start finish, or the finish, I guess, right after the finish line, there's that really steep kicker. And if a rider can get away on that part, then the women behind her will have to be very organized to be able to pull her back, but it's not out of the question. There's still, once they get to the top of the longer climb, there's still about 20 kilometers to go until the finish. So there's plenty of time to reel something back in if you have motivation with the riders that you're with. But if a rider can get away, like on the last lap on that steep part, then they can stay away until the end if there's not the right motivation or not the right combination of riders behind them.
Yeah, it's such a different dynamic than when we see in the pro races, to have national teams and different egos at play, I guess, in those whittled down bunches that we're going to see on more difficult courses like this. So definitely going to see having good racecraft is going to be an asset. So like you said, Abby, I think Marina Voss, she's not a dark horse for this. She raced at the Olympics. She puts herself in the right place at the right time and probably earlier than what she maybe used to, because she knows that she's not the first option for the Dutch anymore. So I think she's clever in that she's putting herself forward quicker, and she's got that strength to be able to go long in a race and be aggressive and be smart. So I'm really excited to see how she plays it and how the Dutch play it. But obviously Kopecky's a tough one to beat. She can cover almost anything alone, but she's actually got quite a strong team around her now. I think the Belgians have been slowly but surely been building quite a strong force of female riders. They haven't really had much of a presence until the last couple of years, and certainly I think the Kopecky effect is well and truly happening. Justine Gakira has just been awesome in the last couple of seasons, and I think she's going to be really key in Kopecky's race. And then, of course, the Italians, they're always so focused on their one or two key riders. I really hope that Elise Longa-Borghini can have a good race. I think we all want to see her in the stripes before she retires, whenever that may be. I think that would be such an awesome winner to see, but so many other riders would be awesome too. And Grace, it's actually a good course for Grace Brown as well. I think she's a bit more of an outsider, just all things considered, but you know, if it goes her way on the day, she's very capable on a course like this. And imagine the podcast we'll have to do next week if she won another rainbow jersey.
I think much like the Belgian team, the Polish team is also quite impressive. They've really grown over the last couple of years. They've obviously got Marta Lach, who rode really, really well at the Olympics and has been having a great season, and Dominika Włodarczyk, who won Cadell's earlier in the year and hasn't had, as strong a season since, but is a really, really strong rider. Agnieszka Soniak-Sojka, like they've got a ton of really strong riders on the team. And there's a lot of riders that we haven't actually seen racing a lot recently. Like we know obviously that Kristen Faulkner is incredibly strong and has been getting a lot better at the racecraft, but we've not seen her race since the tour. She's not raced. And like we talked about with Grace, about the time trial, keeping that form or replicating that form again 6 weeks later is not the easiest thing. And so, I think, Faulkner would be in for a chance at a result here. We have no idea how she's riding at the moment. We know that Dygert is riding relatively well, and she's one that can kind of get amongst it in a course like this. I feel like she's not one to be completely ruled out from being there and like being a feature in the race. But yeah, there's also a lot of riders we just don't know what their form is like. I mean, Elise Longa-Borghini falls into that category as well. She's not raced in a long time. Apart from like GP de Plouay, she was out of Romandy with illness. So yeah, we don't know how her form is going into the World Championships, even though we hope that it's really good. We also know like Liana Lippert for the German team, she's only coming into her form now at the tail end of the season, and it's a great course for her. So I think there's a lot of people that could surprise us, even if Kopecky is kind of the out and out favorite to win the race.
And there's a rider we have to mention, an Olympic gold medalist as well, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot.
Oh my God.
What is she going to do?
Where's she going with this? I thought you were going to say Puck Pieterse, the mountain bike world champion, racing her first road race, road world championships. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm so curious about how Pauline's going to go. Like, is she going, thinking that maybe she can get a result, or is she going to kind of dip her toes in the water before she officially rejoins the peloton next year?
Well, it's 10 years, isn't it, since she won the Road Worlds the first time?
Pomperada.
Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
That would be insane.
She'll be a little bit under the radar, but certainly not someone that you can write off.
You know what's a bummer is the British team. They have some really strong riders on the start line, of course, like Anna Henderson, for example, but both Lizzie Deignan and Pfeiffer Georgie are both out of the race. Pfeiffer is still, I saw her at the coffee shop a couple days ago. She's still got a neck brace on from, I'm assuming, the Tour de France Femme crash. And yeah, Lizzie's not racing either. I don't know why for that one, but yeah, we've got quite the lineup, and yeah, there's a lot that can happen. Pauline could win this 10 years later.
That would be an incredible storyline. Yeah, I think there's a lot of contenders, and I'm sure when you go into depth in your, I don't know what your head is thinking, Abby, for the preview article, but like when I think about it, there are just so many possible contenders, which is just great for the sport, because we can't just rattle off the same 5 or 6 names anymore.
Well, let's wrap it up. We got a couple days before this race, and I can be either proven right or wrong. And make sure to check out the preview on escapecollective.com later this week. Obsessions? Anybody?
Well, I do need to make a little apology, because my obsession last week was the show Truth Be Told. And Loren said, "Is that the one with Kate Hudson?" And I said, "No, but I've just started season 2 and it is Kate Hudson in season 2. So sorry about that. I'm now watching season 2 and it's also good. So kind of still obsessed with that. But we did a bunch of gardening, and our backyard has been a couple of years in the making, and it's almost done, and it's awesome. And I'm looking forward to having a little boy rolling around in it.
I'm obsessed with someone else's obsession from a couple weeks ago when we had Tilda Price join the podcast with Gracie and I. She mentioned the concerts that she's been going to wrap up the summer, and Maggie Rogers, and I've been listening to Maggie Rogers' Don't Forget Me album on repeat ever since. It's phenomenal.
I'm a bit stuck for an obsession. I'm obsessed with the baby not pulling all the wires out of the laptop right now. Obsessions.
A peek behind the curtain. Loren has a baby on her lap.
He's very cute.
He's pulling on everything. I'm just gonna go with I'm obsessed with you guys. There we go.
Aww.
And getting to spend this hour with you every Monday. Usually without a baby, but daycare's just spontaneously closed. No, that was poor organization by me that I didn't check the calendar.
Well, you guys did very well.
Louis did great.
Hmm?
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks you two for the chat, and we'll be back next week.